This is the story of how I met Gregg and Mea and how they're transforming their 114 acres in Wisconsin into the glampground of their dreams. Where are we?
We're in Baraboo, Wisconsin, on this beautiful Baraboo range that was created when the glaciers didn't come through this area. So it left all this beauty and wildlife and rocks and lakes, and it's just amazing.
So everywhere else around here got like sort of leveled flat.
That's why, Iowa, Nebraska, all the Illinois, it's pretty flat.
Minnesota.
Yeah, it's real flat.
And although I met them only 2 months ago, the story goes back 4 years ago when Mea logged onto a dating app and met Gregg for the first time.
Yeah, it was a long-term vision, and then I caretook my folks, and they both passed away, and I'm like, well, now I can do it. Now I have the freedom and the ability to do it, so let's go find it. And I met Gregg, and I just said, we're going to go do this. Let's go find some land to do this on.
It was at the height of COVID, and Gregg drove out to meet Mea in a blizzard. Mea thought he was crazy, but Gregg was from Duluth, Minnesota, so it only seemed natural to him.
I've always been a lover of the outdoors and running and skiing and bicycling and anything outdoors. And I'm from Duluth, Minnesota, so the Boundary Waters and camping was always a part of me. So it's just a natural fit. And, Mea says, you're not going to work anymore. You're going to work for me.
We're going to go play.
So unfortunately, I had to quit my job.
Unfortunately,
it was horrible. But it's been a long process to get to where we're at.
It just so happens that they both love the outdoors, and they both had independent dreams of doing something just like this. So after they met, they started looking around all over Wisconsin, specifically the driftless area of Wisconsin where Baraboo is located. Their original plan for it was to build a barndominium on it where they would make their house and then they would have a glampground down the road. But after realizing it was going to cost $500,000 to put a road up to where they wanted to put their house, they decided to flip the script and do the glampground before they did their house.
The dream started a long time ago. I probably in my 20s, wanted to have a tiny house. Before tiny homes were a thing, I wanted to have a tiny home community, and I wanted to create them all over the world where I wanted to live so my tribe could move and travel and be together and have a sense of community. And then when I found out about glamping, I was like, well, this is even better than that. That's kind of how this whole dream started. But the reason we ended up here is I started coming to the Driftless and traveling all around Wisconsin and looking at land, and Devil's Lake State Park was my favorite place of all.
And one fateful day when they were having dinner, they found the listing, 114 acres for $625,000. They saw it and made an offer on it the next day.
And we happened to be here one weekend having dinner at the distillery, and I happened to pull up the real estate app, and there was this property listed. Had just gotten listed, and I'm like, let's go look at it. We went and looked at it the next day, and we made an offer that day, and we got it. So it was like a dream come true.
All right, but I'm not here to tell the love story. I'm here to talk about how they're going to build a glampground on that 114 acres that I mentioned earlier. So we originally got connected when Gregg reached out to talk about bathhouses. Yes, the natural way that everybody should get connected is over a bathroom. After that initial phone call where we talked about not only the bathhouses, but the domes, the hot tubs, the saunas, and the glampground model as a whole that we're building with Ferncrest, within 24 hours, Mea, Gregg, and I were back on a phone call, nailing out the details to make Ferncrest come to Wisconsin.
This property was zoned agricultural when we bought it 3 years ago. So we began the process to get it rezoned. And we're in the town of Baraboo, and we had to go through them to get comprehensive land use plan updated, which took literally a year. And we're going to the board meetings every month just to get this through. So that finally got through last year. And then we were debating, okay, campground, how are we going to do this? We want to live here so that we can manage it and do all that. So we kind of put everything on hold, and then we're like, yeah, we're going to do the barn dominium. And then all of a sudden, we came across Ferncrest. Really appreciate your energy, and I think we really, really connect with each other. So now we're full speed ahead. We put in our application yesterday to have the property rezoned.
Their property is amazing. It's got natural forested areas as well as clearings that'll add sort of a character and dynamic approach to the guest experience when they're on the property. The area where they're going to build the glampground was actually an old mobile home park area. Now, before you think mobile home park and think that it's a little bit sketchy, that's anything but. These were mobile homes that were there 50, 60 years ago that have since been removed. But because they were there, there's natural clearings and there's also leveled out areas that make it easier to develop. The other thing that helps with is some of the permitting and zoning. Because some of those areas were already impervious surfaces, they don't count towards various restrictions on adding impervious structures and impervious surfaces to the property. So that helps with the development process significantly. How many acres are you currently looking at creating into the first version of Ferncrest, would you say, approximately?
5.
Right.
Out of 114.
And so not only will the guests get to stay in a property that has so much to explore, but it also gives you opportunities to expand. This section of the property, which is where their Glampground is going to go, is also right off of a road. But because this road is not a thoroughfare, it has virtually no traffic. However, the one really cool feature that it does have is it has the oldest rock known in the United States. Yeah. If rocks can all have different ages, this one's the oldest one. And it's really, really interesting to see it in person. And I guess the reason for this is because this area of Wisconsin, the driftless region, as Mea has explained to me, was not impacted by all the glacial activity of the last ice age. So when other areas of the flatter portions of America got wiped out and sort of bulldozed by these glaciers melting and receding, the driftless region of Wisconsin was preserved, meaning that all these rocks and all these cool features are like they were maybe a million years ago. And in the case of this rock, supposedly it's 2.7 billion years old. This property has so much opportunity for expansion. They're going to start with 12 glamping sites, 1 bathhouse, and a camp store. But over the next couple years, the hope is that they're going to expand this well beyond that.
Well, I think phase 2, we've kind of mapped it out. We're going to do more cabins, but we'd like to do phase 3 and build some units up into the woods on decks that are on the edge of that hill there, which I think would be really beautiful and private, but it's close enough to get. The nice thing is that we're 2 miles from Devil's Lake State Park, so people that like boating or swimming or rock climbing, it's just a gorgeous park for doing all of that and hiking. So it's just beautiful.
Not only did I get to spend a lot of quality time with Gregg and Mea during my visit to Wisconsin, but I got to walk the land with them and really understand their vision for it, as well as provide feedback on how we would make the site layout work for a Ferncrest. Planning the layout for a Glampground is more art than science. Yes, you can look at measurements, you can make assumptions based upon best practices of other Glampgrounds, but you really don't know how it's going to work and how it's going to feel until you're on it. And that's why it's so important for me to make those visits to a place like this and actually walk the land and feel the land. And while we were there, we realized that there was a lot more opportunity in areas where there wasn't clearings already. So we're thinking about expanding some of the domes into some of the forested areas to give more privacy. We're going to keep the camp store and the bathroom somewhat central to make it an amenity that everybody can easily get to. The most important thing about the Ferncrest experience is keeping parking separate. We don't like cars parking right next to the tents. We think that the traffic within a campground, a traditional RV campground, or many other campgrounds that are out there, makes it really unappealing. People are trying to get out of the city. They're trying to get out of their developments. The last thing you want is your car parked right by your tent or hear a car driving by you at night. That's why the front area, which already has a natural parking lot area, will be where the parking is. People will be able to grab their carts, walk their luggage back, past the camp store, have the bathhouse. We're also going to put in a little play space, a little playground for kids. Ferncrest is all about, yes, the experience of nature and the solitude and the peace, but it's also about family. So we want to make sure that there's consideration for that as well. Within 15 minutes of this property, they have so much to offer. Devil's Lake State Park is a stunningly beautiful park that has rock climbing, boating, hiking, fishing. They also have distilleries and breweries and so many other things for people to do while they're staying there.
The Ringling Brothers Circus started here in Baraboo. They have a whole museum there. There's a clown museum. There's a Ringling Brothers theater that's fully restored, that's absolutely gorgeous, that hopefully they're going to start having performances like music.
This is going to be a home run. The Baraboo Ferncrest and Gregg and Mea are set up for success like nothing I've ever seen before. So despite this property being amazing, they still have some challenges in the near future that they have to overcome, namely with the municipality. They have some zoning considerations as well as some wetland issues to contend with. The wetlands are all at the front portion of their property, and it turns out that they have to stay away from that, and that's a pretty serious thing. So it's really important that as they design their site plan and their layout, that they're giving plenty of clearance to that area so that they don't have any potential of conflict with the wetlands and the DNR. DNR is Department of Natural Resources. The zoning process is probably the most arduous and stressful part of this entire process. So there's no doubt that this land qualifies for use as a campground, but it still means that they have to go through the process of getting it rezoned to be able to use it as such. Once the zoning process is done and they have to go ahead to start building, it'll be an all-out sprint to get open. Fortunately, they already have the domes being produced, the bathhouse being built, and the camp store. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they're going to get started. But one thing I've learned from spending time with these guys is that they are built for this challenge. They are life and business partners, and they are ready for this next challenge. So if you want to see how this all turns out, be sure to subscribe and follow along because we're going to be sharing a lot more very soon.